The Coast Miwok are an indigenous people that was the second largest group of Miwok people. The Coast Miwok inhabited the general area of modern Marin County and southern Sonoma County in Northern California, for the Golden Gate north to Duncans Point and eastward to Sonoma Creek. The Coast Miwok included the Bodega Bay Miwok from authenticated Miwok villages around Bodega Bay and Marin Miwok culture. The Coast Miwok spoke their own Coast Miwok language in the Ute linguistic group. They lived by hunting and gathering, and lived in small bands without centralized political authority. In the springtime they would head to the coasts to hunt salmon and other seafood, including seaweed. Otherwise the staple foods were primarily acorns, particularly from black and tan oak nuts, and wild game, such as deer and cottontail rabbits and black-tailed deer. Odocoileus hemionus columbianus, a coastal subspecies of the California mule deer. Odocoileus hemionus. When hunting deer, Miwok hunters traditionally use Brewer's Angelica brewery to eliminate their own scent. Miwok did not typically hunt bears. Yerba buena tea leaf were used medicinally. Tattooing was a traditional practice among Coast Miwok, and they burned poison oak for a pigment. The traditional houses were constructed with slabs of tule grass or redwood bark in a cone-shaped form. Miwok people are skilled at basketry. A recreated Coast Miwok village called Kuloklo is located at the Point Reyes National Seashore. Language: the Coast Miwok language is no longer natively spoken, but the Bodega dialect is documented in Callahan. Religion: the original Coast Miwok people worldview included animism, and one form of this stock was the Kuksu religion that was evident in central and northern California. This included elaborate acting and dancing ceremonies in traditional costume, an annual mourning ceremony, puberty rites of passage, shamanic intervention with the spirit world, and an all-male society that met in subterranean dance rooms. Kuksu was shared with other indigenous ethnic groups of Central California, such as the neighbors the Pomo, also Maidu, Ohlone, Esalen, and northernmost Yokus. However, Kroeber observed less specialized cosmogony in the Miwok, which he termed one of the southern Kuksu dancing groups, in comparison to the Maidu and other Northern California tribes. Coast Miwok mythology and narratives were similar to those of other natives of Central and Northern California. The Coast Miwok believed in animal and human spirits, and saw the animal spirits as their ancestors. Coyote was seen as their ancestor and creator god. In their case, the earth began with land formed out of the Pacific Ocean. Traditional narratives in the myths, legends, tales, and histories. The Coast Miwok participated in the general cultural pattern of Central California. Authentic villages. The authenticated Coast Miwok villages are: on Bodega Bay, Halapatai, Haimtakala, Hotakala, Suvatan, Tiwatulia, Tokau. Also in this vicinity, Awachi, Amayel, Kenakono. On Tomales Bay, Ekakolam, Shotmo, Saklaki, Utumia. At the present-day city of Petaluma, Petaluma. Also in this vicinity, Tuchalan, Laikatiat Melia, Susuli, Tume, Wotoki. At the present-day city of San Rafael, Awani Y. At the present-day city of Sonoma, Huchi. Also in this vicinity, Temblik, Tuli, Wagalwa. At the present-day city of Kotati, Luman Takala. Also in this vicinity, Payanicha. At the present-day town of Nicasio, Ekitamal. At the present-day town of Olema, Loke. At the present-day city of Sausalito, Liwanloa. Near the present-day town of Bolinas, Bali N. Near the present-day town of Freestone, Oyomi, Pakahua, Patawa, Wyoming. Near the present-day town of Ignacio, EWU, Puyukus, Shotok Mocha. Near the present-day city of Novato, Chochi, Olompoli. near the present-day town of Valley Ford; Uapalt, Uliyomi, near the present-day town of Salmon Creek, Pululacum. History. Documentation of Miwok peoples dates back as early as 1579 by a priest on a ship under the command of Sir Francis Drake. Other verification of occupancy exists from Spanish and Russian voyages between 1595 and 1808. Over 1,000 prehistoric charmstones and numerous arrowheads have been unearthed at Tole Lake in southern Sonoma County, some dating back 4,000 years. The lake was thought to be a sacred site and ceremonial gathering and healing place for the Miwok and others in the region. Coast Miwok would travel and camp on the coast and bays at peak fishing seasons. After the Europeans arrived in California, the population declined from diseases introduced by the Europeans. Beginning in 1783, mission ecclesiastical records show that Coast Miwok individuals began to join Mission San Francisco de Asis, now known as Mission Dolores. They started joining that mission in large numbers in 1803, when the marriages of 49 couples from the Fuiman and Gualan local tribes appeared in the Mission San Francisco Book of Marriages. Local tribes from farther and farther north along the shore of San Pablo Bay moved to Mission San Francisco through the year 1812. Then in 1814 the Spanish authorities began to split the northern groups, Alagualas, Chocorimes, Olompales, and Petalumas, sending a portion of each group to Mission San Francisco and another portion to Mission San Jose in the southeast portion of the San Francisco Bay Area. By the end of the year 1817, 850 Coast Miwok had been converted. Mission San Rafael was founded by the Spanish Franciscans in Coast Miwok territory in the late fall of 1817. By that time the only Coast Miwok peoples still on the land were those on the Pacific coast of the Marin Peninsula, from Point Reyes north to Bodega Bay. The Spanish authorities brought most of the Coast Miwoks who had been at Missions San Francisco and San Jose back north to form a founding population for Mission San Rafael. But some who had married Ohlone Bay Miwok-speaking Mission Indians remained south of the Golden Gate. Over time in the 1820s, Mission San Rafael became a mission for Coast Miwok and Pomo speakers. Mission San Francisco Solano, founded in 1823 in the Sonoma Valley, came to be predominantly a mission for Indians that spoke the Wapo-Patuan languages. At the end of the mission period, the Coast Miwoks were freed from the control of the Franciscan missionaries. At the same time, the mission lands were secularized and ceded to Californios. Most Coast Miwok began to live in servitude on the ranchos for the new California land grant owners, such as those who went to work for General Mariano G. Vallejo at Rancho Petaluma Adobe. The ranch owners were dependent upon the labor pool of Indians with agricultural and ranching skills. Other Miwok chose to live independently in bands like those at Rancho Olompale and Rancho Nicasio. In 1837, a smallpox epidemic decimated all the native populations of the Sonoma region, and the Coast Miwok population continued to decline rapidly from other diseases brought in from the Spaniards as well as the Russians at Fort Ross. By the beginning of California statehood, many Miwok of Marin and Sonoma counties were making the best of a difficult situation by earning their livelihoods through farm labor fishing within the traditional homelands. Others chose to work as seasonal or year-round laborers on the ranches that were rapidly passing from Mexican ownership into Anglo-American ownership. Olompali and Nicasio. After Mission San Rafael closed during the 1834 to 1836 period, the Mexican government deeded most of the land to Californios, but allowed the Indians ex-neophytes to own land at two locations within traditional Coast Miwok territory, Olompali and Nicasio. The Coast Miwok leader Camilo Anisha secured a land grant of 2 square leagues known as Rancho Olompali from Governor Michel Torner of Alta California in 1843, which included the prehistoric Miwok village of Olompali and is north of present-day Novato. The village of Olompali dates back to 500, had been a main center in 1200, and might have been the largest native village in Marin County. Anisha held onto the Rancho Olompali land title for 9 years, but in 1852 he sold most of the land to James Black of Marin. He retained 1,480 acres called a Palacacha. His daughter eventually sold the Palacacha. The other Indian-owned rancho was at Rancho Nicasio northwest of San Rafael. Near the time of secularization, the church granted the San Rafael Christian Indians 20 leagues of mission lands from present-day Nicasio to the Tomales Bay. About 500 Indians relocated to Rancho Nicasio. By 1850 they had but 1 league of land left. This radical reduction of land was a result of illegal confiscation of land by non-Indians under protest by Indian residents. In 1870, Jose Calistro, the last community leader at Nicasio, purchased the small surrounding parcel. Calistro died in 1875, and in 1876 the land was transferred by his will to his 4 children. In 1880 there were 36 Indian people at Nicasio. The population was persuaded to leave in the 1880s when Marin County curtailed funds to all Indians who were not living at the poor farm, a place for indigent peoples. By the early 20th century, a few Miwok families pursued fishing for their livelihoods. One family continued commercial fishing into the 1970s, while another family maintained an oyster harvesting business. When this activity was neither in season nor profitable, Indian people of this area sought agricultural employment, which required an itinerant lifestyle. The preferred locality for such work was within Marin and Sonoma counties. Recognition. The Federated Indians of Gratin Ranch area, formerly the Federated Coast Miwok, gained federal recognition of the tribal status in December 2000. The new tribe consists of people of both Coast Miwok and Southern Pomo descent. Population. Estimates for the pre-contact populations of most native groups in California have varied substantially. Alfred L. Kroeber put the 1770 population of the Coast Miwok at 1,500. Sherburne F. Cook raised this figure to 2,000. The population in 1848 was estimated as 300, and it had dropped to 60 in 1880. Notable Coast Miwoks. Jose Calistro was the last community leader at Nicasio. Chief Marin was a Coast Miwok of the Huiman local tribe, baptized at around age 20 in 1801 at Mission San Francisco and noted as an alcalde at Mission San Rafael in the 1820s. He died on March 15, 1839. Marin County and the Marin Islands are named in his honor. He was the great chief of the tribe Licachet, according to General Vallejo's semi-historical report to the first California state legislature. Quinton was renowned as the sub-chief of Marin and skipper at Mission Dolores, according to General Vallejo. San Quentin Peninsula is reputed to be named after him. San Quentin State Prison was added much later. Julia F. Parker, notable basket weaver, Pomponio was baptized in 1803 at around age 4 at Mission San Francisco. He was a leader of a band of Native American fugitives in California who called themselves Los Insurgents. Evading authorities, he was eventually captured in Marin County, and executed in Monterey in 1824. Greg Saris is the current tribal chairman of the Federated Indians of Gratin Ranch area, also a college professor and author. William Smith was born at Bodega Bay, Coast Miwok, was forced relocation to Lake County during the late 19th century, but returned to Bodega Bay where he and his relatives founded the commercial fishing industry in the area. Camilo Anisha was a Coast Miwok leader who became the owner of an 8,800 acres land grant secured for the Miwok named Rancho Olompali, now the Olompali State Historic Park. Anisha also forged a ranch labor alliance with General Vallejo and secured semblance of peace with the white settlers.